For the past year, every conversation about Villa Vie has started with one question. Is Villa Vie cheaper than living on land? We're here to tell you that this might be the wrong conversation.
Today, we're going to reframe the entire discussion and talk about Villa Vie not as a replacement for your home, but as a replacement for your vacations. We certainly learned a lot as we explored Villa Vie as a vacation alternative, and if you're interested in residential cruising, it may do the same for you.
The story you often hear about residential cruising is a compelling one. People sell their homes, pack up their lives, and move on to a cruise ship like the Villa Vie Odyssey. For many, it's a brilliant financial and lifestyle move that makes a lot of sense, and we totally get the appeal of that.
Yeah, that is the story that really dominates the discussion around residential cruising, and that is make the cruise ship your primary home. Get away from all the high cost of living wherever you are and see the world from your primary home instead of having a home back home that you have to travel from. It's a very compelling story.
It's a story of replacement. You replace your home on land with one at sea. And we actually see people thriving on that model on the ship every single day.
Yeah, and it's the story that dominates all the headlines, right? It's replace your primary home for residential cruising. But it leaves out a lot of folks that are asking a very different set of questions. And that is not how do I replace my primary home, but how do I travel differently? How do I vacation differently?
That cheaper than land argument is the main event. It's the thing that gets all of the press. But it creates a conflict for people like us. What if you love your home? You don't want to sell your primary home. You don't want to leave your family. Maybe you have a job there that you don't want to leave. You need to be close to the office. But at the same time, you're deeply, deeply frustrated by all of the conventional ways that you can vacation.
Exactly. Many people dream of having that special little getaway somewhere, like a place in Mexico or a villa in Portugal or wherever your special spot may be away from your primary home. But soon enough, the reality of having something like that really kicks in. It's the HOA, it's the taxes, it's the maintenance, it's security when you're not there. And don't even think about getting to and from your relaxing vacation spot. There's a lot to consider.
You buy a place to escape the stress, but you really just end up with a second job as a property manager, and the benefits package is terrible. And you end up going to that place time and time again, year after year, and it gets a little boring after a while. Now, the alternative to that is more high-end travel where you're traveling to one different location after the other, but that could be really time-consuming, so much planning, and quite expensive.
Yeah, part of the issue here is kind of vacation traditionally is a little bit broken. The models are either too restrictive, they're too expensive, or they're just a lot of work. And that's what we bump into before we found Villa Vie. You're trading your precious time off for this planning and logistical nightmare that you really don't want to have to mess with.
This isn't just a theoretical problem for us. We actually lived this exact conflict. Shortly after retirement, we traveled to San Miguel de Allende, Mexico.
Yeah.
And we fell in love with this incredible house.
Yeah, we were in love with this house. We went through the whole process. You know, we found the house, we went through all the legalities. There's a lot of things involved when you buy a property in Mexico or a foreign country. We even made a full price offer. And we tell this whole story in one of the videos. We ought to let folks know about that.
It's a great video.
In the end, even with a full price offer, they went with somebody else that went above us. And at the time, we were devastated.
It's funny how things work out. A few weeks later, after the sting of losing the house wore off, it was replaced by an overwhelming sense of relief.
Yes.
We realized that while the house, as great as it would have given us really fantastic memories there, but it also would have anchored us into one single spot.
Yeah, this was a real wake-up call for us, and we were really thankful that we got it. Losing this house really clarified what we want. We just didn't know it at the time. We didn't want to hang out in a great house in Mexico all the time. We want to see the whole world. And thankfully, this experience really let us see what we wanted was a sense of adventure and to see the whole world. And no great house anywhere could make up for that.
Now, we need to pause here for a quick reality check. We realize that talking about a second home, any kind of vacation home, whether it be a house in Mexico or a cabin on a ship, is a very privileged conversation. Not everyone is in a position to do something like this, and we absolutely get that.
Yeah. We know that it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to say, hey, everybody ought to run out and buy a vacation home. That would be crazy. We're here today really to say maybe there's a different way to look at that traditional dream of a second home and kind of all that goes with it. We know that it makes sense for you to have a plan that works for you and your family, both financially and for your life. So as we have this discussion today, we're really trying to open up a discussion that works for you if you're looking at a second home or an alternative to one.
With all this being said, all of this really got us thinking. What if we haven't been seeing the whole picture when it comes to the Villa Vie Odyssey? What if some of its greatest value is not just about being a replacement home, but it's really also about being the ultimate disruptor when it comes to second homes and vacation homes and maybe even travel and vacations in general?
That's when the numbers get really interesting. When you kind of pull back and look at the cost for a second home versus your primary home, it gets really interesting. Of course, you have your primary home and you live in it. But when you start looking at a second home, wherever that is on land, you're going to bump into all those additional expenses beyond the purchase price. You're going to get into property taxes, maintenance. Maybe if you're in a foreign country, you have to do all of these trusts and all this other stuff. There's a lot involved. Plus, you're not going to be there all the time. So you've got to make sure there are people there that take care of things. When you start really looking at all of those costs, the cost of a land-based second home, wherever that is, even in cheap markets, gets a little more expensive than you might think.
And that doesn't even include the cost of your vacation. With a condo, you still have to pay for things like your flights and your food and your fun, and all of this a la carte approach to vacations makes it difficult for you to predict what your actual true costs are going to be.
Yeah, exactly. On the Odyssey, though, you have obviously an upfront fee if you purchase, and then a monthly. But that monthly fee includes most of what he just said. It includes your travel, it includes your hotel, it includes your meals and much of your alcohol and many other things like internet and other things that you'd probably have to pay for when you were back at your second home. So it puts it into a very predictable package that is fixed for the duration of your contract, whatever that is.
Other options present some of the same issues, like high-end timeshares. A lot of times you sink in a lot of money up front, and then at the end of the year, you're hit with maintenance fees. And so often, those continually go up year after year.
Exactly. They are a moving target. And while many of the timeshares will include things like a all-inclusive resort, most timeshares don't. So you're kind of really just prepaying for your room, and then you're left with everything else like food and activities and whatever else you do. On the Odyssey, you do have those inclusions like the food, the internet, and the things that we talked about. And it's fixed on a monthly basis per the contract for the duration of your contract. So that predictability and that ability to know what all is included really allows you to step back and plan your vacations and pretty easily do it.
Now, we have to be completely transparent about the financial side of this because it really is crucial that you understand what you're buying. This is not a traditional real estate transaction. You're not going to get a deed to a piece of property that you're going to be able to sell on Zillow the next year.
That's a key distinction. You're buying a right to occupy a cabin for 15 years or the life of the vessel, and it is not a piece of property like he mentioned. So you've really got to step back and understand that you're buying a very illiquid, depreciating asset. And this is clearly not buying property. This is buying into a lifestyle that you can vacation and enjoy. The primary buyback programs are either exiting through the buyback program that the company offers or on an open niche market. So clearly, this is a very niche and specific market that you'd be selling into if you did decide to leave. So you got to make sure you see this is not something that you're going to buy and expect to appreciate.
It's also a significant commitment. You're spending a great deal of your vacation capital and your time on a very specific mode of transport.
Yeah.
Let's say that you wanted to spend a couple of weeks on an African safari or a month or so in a European capital. Well, that might be difficult because you're still paying the monthly fee for your cabin at sea, even though you're not there. Now, of course, if you had a vacation home on land somewhere, you would still be paying for that as well, even though it's vacant.
And on top of that, and we've talked about this before, Villa Vie is a startup. So you're an early adopter, and you've got to realize that there is some financial risk, and there could be operational changes or other unexpected things that you're going to have to roll with along the way.
Beyond the financials, there's also the personal day-to-day realities to consider. Yeah. Let's start with the most important one, and that would be healthcare.
Yeah.
The ship has a medical center that will help with really basic care and emergency care, but a ship is not a floating hospital.
No, and this is really, in our opinion, kind of a non-negotiable. You got to figure this out. If you look at most healthcare insurance, like Medicare in the US, they have pretty strong stipulations for not covering things when you're out of the country. That varies some, but it's really important to understand how you are and aren't covered, especially if it comes to an evacuation. Say you're on the ship and you've got to get to land via helicopter. That's an evacuation, and that can be incredibly expensive. So you've really got to step back and figure out how you are going to be covered and how you can confidently keep up your trip, knowing that you're not going to have a financial disaster if you need health care.
The other major factor is community. While having an instant social network is a huge benefit to some, you really have to be honest about your personality. You're going to be living in a very enclosed community. So for your home to continue to be your refuge, you have to be really comfortable navigating the social dynamics of something like that.
And that is exactly why we spend so much time on that subject in our book, Hidden Gems Guide to Residential Cruising. You are coming into a community and you've really got to know yourself, and you got to understand that you're coming into a social dynamic that's very different than you may have at home or ever even experienced before. And that's absolutely doable, but you got to step back, understand yourself, and understand how you really are going to enjoy the vacation home given who you are and how you want to interact and become a part of this really rich community.
When you reframe the conversation and your cabin as a lifestyle asset, you're pivoting away from just a dollars and cents kind of conversation. You're not just prepaying for vacations at that point. Yeah. You're buying back your most valuable and non-renewable asset, which is your time.
Think about it. You're trading all the hundreds of hours you would spend researching and booking flights and unbooking them later, hotels and logistics and all that stuff. You're taking all that time and you're just letting it go. You're putting that time back into experiencing travel instead of planning travel. It really opens up your whole world, and it really flips the whole thing on its head in a great way.
And it's not just time that you gain. When you step aboard the Odyssey, you're instantly part of a ready-made global community. Yeah. When you live in a condo somewhere, or you travel through Europe like we used to do, just the two of us, which was great, but we didn't see a lot of other people, well, all of that could be a little bit isolating. But when you're buying a cabin on the Odyssey or another residential cruise ship, you're instantly part of a community of like-minded travelers. hours.
Yeah, and that's great, actually. You've always got somebody to go to dinner with, to go explore with, to do a lot of different things with, work out, walk, that kind of thing. And it's also a wide audience for all your favorite dad jokes.
This also completely changes how you travel. On board the Odyssey, there is this professionally curated itinerary that's like 3.5 years or so that takes you to some of the most premier destinations. But in a very cool way, it takes you also to these very out of the way places that you probably would never have taken a standalone trip to.
And that actually has sometimes been our favorite part. This itinerary and this way of traveling allows us to experience these hidden gem places that we would have never seen if we were out meticulously planning every hour of our trip. And so far, some of these have been the best part of our adventure.
A perfect example of this would be our stop in icy Strait Point, Alaska. It's certainly a place we had never heard of before and certainly would never have taken a standalone trip to, but the ship took us there and we had some beautiful memories there. Take a look. We're in icy Strait Point, Alaska, and as you can see, we're surrounded by beauty. There is this nature trail going that way, so we're gonna take that trail and look around and see if we can spot any wildlife, or we actually heard that there's a whale that's kind of circling around the coast, so we're gonna see if we can spot her. You know, when we were planning to come to Alaska, we were just a little bit scared that we might be disappointed, that it wouldn't live up to the hype, but it really does. It's some of the most spectacular scenery we've seen since Norway and before. It's really, really amazing.
We are having so much fun on this trail in icy Strait, Alaska, Hoona, Alaska. And it's neat because we're kind of out here by ourselves right now, and these trees are so tall and so beautiful. It's a really neat, serene, different experience. It's been a long time since we've been in this kind of nature, and we're absolutely loving it. See, that kind of unexpected magic is exactly what we're talking about. Enjoying Icy Strait had nothing to do with meticulous planning. It had everything to do with just going on this lifestyle and having the courage and the time to walk off the ship.
So what does all of this look like in practice? Well, for us, it looks like this. We may be in the minority right now, but we chose to keep our land home. It's something that's right for us, and fortunately something that we can do. If you've seen our other videos, you know that we love our life in Washington, D.C. We love being able to go back home and see our friends and take advantage of everything that the city has to offer.
But we've chosen for our second home to be a cabin on the Odyssey. This is perfect for us. We explore this way. We see the world this way. We get everything we need in terms of our travel needs this way. We love also having our home. So we've got our roots on land in Washington, D.C., and we have our wings on the Odyssey, and we love having both. Now, a lot of folks have sold everything and they're here permanently, and that works great for them. We're like having both for now. You never know. We may do that someday, but for now, we're loving exploring the world on our Odyssey as our second home.
Now, we initially wanted to just get a small interior cabin, kind of like a pied-à-terre on the sea, you might say. But the more we stayed here on the Odyssey and the more we embraced this lifestyle as our true second home, we realized that we wanted more. And it was then that we decided to upsize to the larger cabin.
And we do have some flexibility, which we love. As we've talked about in another video, if we choose to, when we leave the Odyssey for extended amounts of time, we have the option to rent our cabin, and while we're away, it can bring in some income to offset the expenses we have. So that's a nice thing to have as we consider the Odyssey plus everything else we want to do in the world.
So what do you think? What do you think about the Villa Vie Odyssey or any residential cruise ship as a primary home? What do you think about it as a second home or vacation home? Let us know in the comments.
Please. And we've got a membership program, so check out our membership program. It's growing and folks are really enjoying. We're asking folks what they like. So if you join as a member, you can tell us what you want to see. We're doing some very cool behind the scenes videos.
Very fun videos.
As well as a few other things. So check out our memberships, and until next time, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.